In the world of Harry Potter, a ghost is a transparent, which continues to exist in the mortal world. Muggles cannot come back as ghosts, and the wisest witches and wizards choose not to. It is those with unfinished business, whether in the form of fear, guilt, regret, or overt attachment to the material world, who refuse to move on to the next dimension. They are especially disappointing on this one subject that amazes most people. Ghosts cannot return a very sensible answer on what it's like to die, because they have chosen a poor version of life instead. So in today's video, I'm gonna talk about the life and death of Hogwarts Ghosts, starting with Nearly Headless Nick to the Fat Flyer. Sir Nicholas de Memsey Pemberton, known as Nearly Headless Nick, led a jovial life. He was originally born in the 15th century to a family of nobles, which he left at the age of 11 to attend Hogwarts. He was sorted into Gryffindor, the house that hundreds of years later he would go on to present as the house ghost. After Hogwarts, Nick found himself as a wizard at the royal court. The story goes that Nick met a Lady Grave while strolling in the park, fell in love with her, and insisted that he could fix her crooked teeth with magic. But the spell backfired and she instead started to grow a tusk. Nick was then arrested and sentenced to death. A boss beheading that because of a dull axe took 45 hacks to kill him, but still didn't sever his head from his body, hence the nickname Nearly Headless Nick. After death, he chose to be Gryffindor house ghost. An interesting fact, Nick wrote a ballad about his own demise, entitled The Ballad of Nearly Headless Nick. The Great Lady. In death, she is known as the Great Lady. In life, she was Helena Ravenclaw, daughter of legendary witch Rowena Ravenclaw, who founded Ravenclaw House. Helena's relationship with her mother was complex. An ambitious witch in the shadow of a brilliant wand, Helena envied her mother's status and wisdom. A few years into her magical education, she betrayed her mother by stealing the diadem, believing it could make her powerful, and running away from Hogwarts. The betrayal embarrassed Rowena, who told no one that the diadem was missing. On her deathbed, however, she did send a young man to find Helena, so she could see her daughter for one last time. The young man tracked her down to a forest in Albania. She ended up getting stabbed to death, which I'm gonna explain how later. The Bloody Baron, an importantly dangerous ghost soaked in someone else's blood, remained a mystery at Hogwarts for a while. He was simply known as the Baron. It was only at the point of his death that the bloody part of his name was added in, and for a good reason. It all began, however, with Helena Ravenclaw. He was lovesick with Helena ever since they met at Hogwarts, even though she would always refuse his advances. Not much is known about the Baron beyond his involvement with Helena, but it's clear that he was a hot-tempered young man. When Helena ran away with her mother's diadem, the Baron was asked to track her down. While he did, to a forest in Albania. With her consort, the Baron pleaded that Helena to come back with him, but her own words became, "Furious at my rejection, jealous of my freedom," and stabbed her to death. Rightly horrible at what he had done, he then used the same knife to kill himself, sentencing himself to an immortality of regret. After death, he chose to be the ghost of Slytherin House. An interesting fact, the Bloody Baron's chains were an act of penitence for what he did to Helena. The Fat Flyer. Not much is known about the Fat Flyer. He's fat, obviously, and a friar, but much of his life remains a mystery. What we know is that he was born into the 10th century and was sorted into Hufflepuff at Hogwarts and run by its founders. Some point after finishing his magical education, his magical ways rose to suspicion, and he was eventually sent to death after the senior judgment grew suspicious of his ability to cure the pox, and he is pensioned for pulling rabbits out of the communion cup. He chose to be a ghost of Hufflepuff House when he died.